Well, hey, everybody. All right, look, first of all, I just want to say congratulations to Coach Rebo on what he has done at Nichols. I think in the 4 years before he got there, they had combined for 6 wins. I think that's right. To be 5-2 and in the playoff conversation, the first story I did with him, I was telling him, I think was 94 at Destrehan High. I did a Rondell Mealy story. I couldn't be happier for his success. Coach Valdez, your game is the 4th Down Friday game of the week this week. It is, I think, the best prep game this week. De La Salle at St. James. It's fun getting to St. James. Hey, look, I know the name of the club is the Quarterback Club, and that implies football, but I do want to say Wednesday, the Pelicans start, and for even mildly interested basketball fans, it is a landmark season for this team. I think this season has an asterisk on it, and the bar is super simple to get. If they go to the playoffs, I think it's going to be continue on this path. If they don't go to the playoffs, I think you're going to see the GM out, the coach out, Boogie Cousins gone, a blow-up start again. And it's literally, that's where the bar is. And in the NBA, getting to the playoffs the bar is not set at 8 feet, right? NFL, 12 teams get to the playoffs out of 32, that's 37% of the league. In Major League Baseball, 10 out of 30, that's 33%. In the NBA, 16 teams out of 30 go to the playoffs. So 53% of the league is in the playoffs. So to get to the playoffs, you just need to be almost in the top half, and you're in the playoffs. And in 5 years of Anthony Davis, one of the great players on the planet, the Pelicans have been there once in 5 years. The Pelicans front office bought themselves some time by signing Boogie Cousins, and you got an offseason to get ready, but it is super simple right now. And look, for Coach Rebo to get to the playoffs, I added it up last night, there's 124 teams in the FCS, and there's 24 playoff spots. That's 19% of the team. It's hard to get in. For the Pelicans, it's not that hard. You need to be almost in the top half of the league. And I think that sort of makes it a really interesting season, because rarely do you know exactly where the bar is, but with that team, you know exactly where it is. All right, in the football season, to me, one of the things that I find most fascinating about the first 6 weeks of the NFL season are the TV ratings. I'm guessing, and look, I don't want to have a national anthem debate, but I will say this, it has certainly affected things. The NFL's ratings from 2016 to 2015 were down 7%. What I read this morning, the best numbers, and it's not exactly apples to apples, but the NFL's down another 7% this week in TV ratings. And what was really interesting was on every game this week, clearly the networks want to stay as far away from the anthem debate as possible. No game showed the anthem. They stayed in commercial through the anthem, which honestly is what they did every year until last year. They stayed in commercial, and the announcers didn't talk about it. Clearly, if the NFL doesn't understand that it's causing adverse reaction, the networks get it, because the networks are, without question, staying away from it. And what I find fascinating is looking at NFL ratings and why they're down. And I certainly think that hasn't helped. But I don't think that's the only factor. There's a bunch of things. One, the 3 biggest TV markets which make the biggest impact are New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. And the teams in those 3 markets are combined 12 and 18. And that's not, you have not, other than the Rams, you don't have much football excitement in the biggest TV markets, where if you lose viewers there, you do feel it nationally. That's one thing. The second thing is I think the NFL has hurt itself so much. First of all, taking away the celebration was wrong. I get taking away taunting, and I believe that. But the end zone dances, taking that away was wrong. And they've changed a lot of clock rules in the NFL. I don't know if you ever notice it. In an NFL game, if any team has a 6-minute drive, 6 minutes off the play clock, and then scores, they will do a touchdown, take a commercial break. Do a kickoff, take another commercial break. And if you're ever watching a game during that time, you're talking about 5 minutes of real time where the only play is a touchback. And that happens because of the way NFL clock rules, I'm sure you guys know this. Now when people go out of bounds, they set the ball, they start the clock again. So the clock is running. They've changed the clock rules. They haven't changed the commercial content. So they still have to get in just as many commercials. And I think the actual play of the game, and then the other part of that is the replay system in the NFL is atrocious. If you watch Major League Baseball, especially this year, they go to New York to get reviews on replays, you know, whether it's a play at first base or whatever, and the reviews come back so fast. Watch an NFL game next time, and the time when on the replay, you know it's a drop, or the time you know, and then the time it's actually announced is sometimes like 90 seconds in between when you know what the call is gonna be, and then when you actually hear it. And I think that those things are killing the NFL. And what I also think is that the fantasy football explosion of 2014-15 is dying out a little bit. And I think what we're also seeing is a lot of maybe the fringe NFL fans getting back out. And the anthem thing has sort of sped up what might be a natural correction. But I'll say this in New Orleans. I look at the TV ratings every day, right? Literally every day we get the TV ratings from the day before. The most watched TV show in New Orleans yesterday was The Voice on NBC, right? Like, I know that every day you can ask me and I can tell you what the #1 show was yesterday. The Voice did an 11 rating, right? The LSU game that we had on our air Saturday against Auburn averaged a 20.7, which is a monster number for a college football game. At the end of the game, the rating, and this is in New Orleans, and we're 12 parishes. This goes to St. James to the west, St. John, St. Charles. This is to the north in Washington, Tangipahoa, St. Tammany, then to the south, Terrebonne, Lafourche, Plaquemines, and in the heart of New Orleans. We're 12 parishes, so when I say New Orleans, I mean all of that 12 parish area. The LSU game at its peak in the fourth quarter when LSU was going ahead was doing a 25 rating, which, like I said, is a monster number. That's a lot of TV sets in New Orleans watching it. The Saints game against the Lions, which was not a high-rated Saints game by New Orleans standards, did a 34.1. And that's on the 10 highest watched shows in New Orleans every year for at least the past 15 years, because that's how long I've been checking it, have been 10 different Saints games. It's just a question of which 10 get the highest ratings. Now, the home games get a tiny bit lower rating than the road games because the 70,000 most motivated Saints fans are at the game and not watching it. So I think that has this much to do with the ratings on a home game. But anyway, the Saints games, I added up 4 different Saints games. And again, it's not quite apples to apples to see if the ratings were down in New Orleans. And from what I got this year, they're down about 5% from last year in New Orleans. Now, it's still by far the highest rated thing in New Orleans, and the NFL will tell you that stuff corrects itself as the season goes on. We'll see. But I honestly find the NFL finding its place. And again, at a 34, the NFL is still by far, head and shoulders, the most watched sports league in the United States. But it is definitely feeling some kind of correction. And how about the Saints season that so looked dead 2 weeks in, and you look at it now, and the way things have turned around. First of all, let me say this about the Adrian Peterson trade. I heard some people say signing Adrian Peterson was a bust. Like, I literally could not disagree more. The one thing the Saints have done well, no matter what you think about what they've done on the field, is find money in a salary cap. They found money to sign the guys they want, right? They found money to sign Adrian Peterson. They gambled on Adrian Peterson. It cost them nothing. Didn't cost them a player, didn't cost them a draft pick. They gave it a shot, and then they flipped them around and got a free draft pick out of it. So that is the opposite of a bust. That is a huge win. You gave the guy a shot. You wound up not needing him for good reason, because Mark Ingram has been Mark Ingram, and Alvin Kamara has been a very pleasant surprise. So you didn't need him, and then for nothing, you got a free draft pick. Saints have given away enough draft picks. This time they got one back for free. So that is the opposite of bust. That's the most positive of positives. All right, here's the things that I think have gone best for the Saints this year. One, with a patchwork offensive line, Teron Armstead played this week. Hadn't played before that. Zach Strief has played very little. You haven't had your tackles. Drew Brees right now is still the 5th-rated quarterback in the NFL. I know he didn't have a great game against the Lions. Thank goodness the Saints didn't need him this week. Drew Brees has been unbelievable without a deep threat, really, and with a patchwork offensive line. That's number one, and that's where I start. Two, I think the Saints have done, like they did a really nice job of understanding Ted Ginn. He was a major player this week. Where Carolina went wrong with Ted Ginn was they used him like a normal wide receiver, right? And this training camp, at the end of training camp, and Adam Ney is in our sports department, will tell you, I'm going nuts about it. I literally have never seen an NFL receiver drop more passes in training camp. Literally never seen a guy who's 50-50 whether he catches the ball. But the Saints clearly had a plan, because if you watch the way they're not using him to run down the field and catch balls in traffic. They're throwing short things here, basically extended handoffs, getting him running. The touchdown this week was a perfect example. To me, the worst free agent signing they've had since the Super Bowl was C.J. Spiller. Worse than Brandon Browner, because at least with Brandon Browner, they had an idea of how to use him. It just didn't work. C.J. Spiller, they signed a guy and had no idea what to do with him. This was a guy, Ted Ginn, where they have actually been, I think, the first team to totally understand how to use this guy. And he's actually helped. And then on defense, Marshawn Lattimore fell to him in the draft. He's been brilliant. Pro Football Focus has him as the 4th best cornerback in the NFL right now. And he's a rookie, still learning. Ironically, the 2nd best cornerback in the NFL right now is Patrick Robinson, who was a former Saints first-round draft pick. But to get a guy who's been that good in the draft, Cam Jordan is 3 years too late. I think he'll be an All-Pro this year and has deserved it the last 3 years. Alex Okafor has been terrific and was an excellent signee. And I think Lattimore has been the difference. The secondary is better. And look, I was a guy, one of the talks like this that I give every year is the crew of Carrollton. And before the season, I went to the crew of Carrollton. I said, look, I think this team's going to be better. I definitely think they're going to be in the playoff hunt. I feel better about them than the last 3 years. And then they come out those first 2 weeks, and I literally felt like the dumbest person I knew the first 2 weeks in. And now the improvements in the secondary is sort of where it started. Okafor's been good. You're seeing the defense play better. And if you look at the NFC right now, the Eagles look like the best team. They're 5-1. They're doing a lot of things well. I think Dallas and Atlanta will be better. But the rest of the NFC, the Saints can certainly compete with the Carolinas and the Rams, Green Bay without Aaron Rodgers. I love the chances of the Saints to be in the playoff hunt the rest of the year. I think they're going to throw a couple of clunkers in there. We've all seen what a Super Bowl team looks like. I don't think this team looks like a Super Bowl team, but I think right now they absolutely look like a team that's going to be in the playoff hunt till the end. All right, I'm trying to get done by 1:05. It's 1:04. How about that? So thank you for having me. Anybody have a question?
There you go. 2 or 3 things. One, did you feel like I did the Kenny Stabler Raider type of comeback during that game? And also, 2:14 left in the third. Did you and Ed notice that the Saints were perfect in their balance? 168 rushing, 168 passing. And explain to me, because I'm not really savvy on draft picks and all, what is a 6th conditional? Is that like the Ricky Williams conditional?
Yeah, in theory, conditional picks are based on either playing time or some kind of number, like if he rushes for this many yards, it becomes a different pick. But then I heard that it is a 6th. So I'm honestly not sure. I mean, honestly, conditional means you don't know what round it is. And originally, the NFL said it was a 6th round pick. Then he said it was a 6th conditional. So honestly, I don't know whether it is a 6th or a conditional that based on playing time, and he looked terrific this week, maybe it becomes a 5th. I don't know the answer to that. The Saints haven't said, the Cardinals haven't said, so I don't know the answer to that one. Yes, the balance thing, I think a lot of people are noticing. The passing numbers are down, which is a good thing. I want to say right now, the Saints are 9th in the NFL in rushing yards per game. I could be wrong, but I think that's where they are, which is a great thing. Balance is a terrific thing. Look, and with this offensive line, you can't ask Ryan Ramczyk to set up in pass protection. You have to mix in run. I think they've done that extremely effectively. And this week, actually, when the Saints got up, we host the Tulane Coaches Show. And so I was doing the Tulane Coaches Show this week. So honestly, when the Saints got up 35, I half stopped watching because I was writing and editing for the Tulane Coaches Show, looked up and they're only down 21, and suddenly we're back in the game. So, no, I honestly thought it was over when the Saints got up. But look, that happens in the NFL, and one of the wildest, most fun games. You talk about a game that's going to get people tuning in again, that was the one.
Their defense is finally starting to take the ball away. I mean, this is the best takeaway for a Saints defense in probably since the Super Bowl year. Wouldn't you agree?
No doubt. It's a 3-game run. You've got 9 turnovers in 3 games.
I think that's the difference of a lot of the reasons.
Yeah, no question about it. And it's an active thing. The way the hands were up, clearly they saw something this week. The way the hands were up front, it's athletic plays, they're going for the ball. Lattimore's play. Look, I think the one that started it, maybe, was Ken Crawley's play in London on the goal line when Miami takes the ball straight down the field. They've done a lot of things well on defense. Tackling wasn't great this week. Golden Tate. And you can see the touchdown with Golden Tate was 2 guys going for the ball, which, you know, and that's sort of the mindset they're in. Certainly, and look, in 09, the defense didn't put up great numbers except for takeaways. You got 9 takeaways in 3 games, and yeah, clearly that's the difference right now. You got to keep it going, and now you get Green Bay without, I mean, it's the one reason you can never look at an NFL schedule and say, this one's a win, this one's a, because you never know what's going to happen. Aaron Rodgers doesn't play. That game is flipped on its end, and now you're playing Brett Hundley, first game, and you got a real shot to go to Lambeau and win. Well, honestly, with Aaron Rodgers, your chances are significantly worse.
I think they're 5.5-point favorite now.
It's crazy, yeah. The thing I saw said 3.5, but yeah.
On the road.
On the road, right. All right, thanks, everybody.